Hi everyone, my name is Marina and I'm leading the European Crypto Initiative. The EUCI, shortly, is an advocacy organization based in Brussels. We're advocating for public blockchains and all the things related to crypto assets as well. And we've been doing this work for the last 6 years. There's always very interesting things to discuss, and we hope to do that long in the future as well.
Hi, Marina.
Hi.
Happy to meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah. So for people who don't know you, just like a brief intro, like what do you do?
Yeah. So I'm Marina and I co-founded the European Crypto Initiative, which is an advocacy organization. I'm also running this initiative now, and it's basically an advocacy organization, nonprofit based in Brussels. And we do advocate for public blockchains and all, in a way, crypto-related things. Now it's going to be 6 years already, so it's pretty a long time since we started. And yeah, it's always interesting because there's many challenges. They're changing over time, but I feel that like the need for such an organization is still present.
What exactly does like EUCI? Is it correct to say EUCI?
Yeah.
It's a short one.
So actually, maybe something also for the audience and for us, for our communication efforts, everyone is in a way looking at the EUCI, which is like in a way abbreviation, and in a way saying it in their own way. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's like something very European. Every country has their own pronunciation, so we have to do a video about that. But yeah, like an example, mostly we really started the time when the Markezic crypto assets regulation was published, and that was 6 years ago. And that was a very strong signal from the European Commission, because before, crypto assets were regulated in member states. And then it really started in a way where, okay, this regulation is happening on the EU level in Brussels. And me and my co-founders, Simon Porot and Florian Graz, they worked on their member states regulation at the time. And then we said, okay, now we need to do something in Brussels. That's how we started. And mostly it was really the work around MiCA. At the time, it was also anti-money laundering. We had different discussions around the travel rule, some other data regulation, etc. And for our work, it's very important what the Commission, in a way, is focusing on. And now we do have a new Commission since this year. So we have new focus, new topics, for example, tokenization. It's important because we use blockchain for it. And so there's a discussion about public blockchain, private blockchain being used. And there are a few other things like privacy as well. The chat control has been something that we have been part of and discussing. A few other privacy topics that might be related a little bit more to just the specifics of the blockchain and crypto, and how the decentralized way of building things might be different from the other ways, like mostly centralized.
Okay, thanks. And so you talk a lot with like politicians, policymakers, like crowd of Brussels people.
Yeah.
How do you feel like, what is their perception of like crypto and Web3 in general? Like, are they aware? Are they like up to date? Like how progressive are they? And what's like, how do you feel their like point of view on Web3 in general?
Yeah, like this is a very, very good question. I would say that it is different across different institutions, and it also changes in time. Like, for example, I would say that, let's say the parliament, some members of the parliament might be more aware of crypto in the previous mandate because they were dealing with MiCA. There was a whole discussion about like, what is a token? What is a crypto asset? What is a crypto asset service provider? Right now, there's not that many things related to crypto and blockchain on their tables at the moment, and they don't have a reason why to even think about it, especially the ones that are new, that came in within this mandate. And so it changes over time. And in a way, what's also interesting is that the governance of the European Union is pretty complicated. So you have the Commission, you have the Council, which is composed by member states. There's 27 of them. And then we have the Parliament. There's also a lot of MEPs with different opinions. But I would say that the governance of the European Union and the whole legislative process is done in a way where you have possibilities of interaction and you have possibilities of like having a dialogue with institutions when they're deciding about a specific topic. And this is done by design. For example, they do ask you for an opinion when they write something, or you have access, I don't know, you invite them for a meeting, or you see them at different events. You can share your opinions within papers, etc. And so that is super interesting. Just another thing, a really long reply, but MiCA in a way is finalized. I say many times that in Europe right now, we are in a post-crypto regulatory era, which means that we have regulated already crypto assets and service providers. The work in Brussels more or less is done when it comes to MiCA. And now the important part is really the supervisors, which are the national competent authorities. And MiCA is supervised right now in, again, 27 different member states. So those are very important. They are not part of the legislative process, but they are supervising MiCA, and the way how they interpret it and how they in practice basically in a way execute, even potentially, I don't know, there could be enforcement. So this is also in a way an important thing from our point of view.
Wow, it's really nice that there is a dialogue and they kind of listen to you. That's awesome to hear, because it could be different as well.
Yeah.
So it gives me a lot of hope. But what shall we expect from MiCA, and how like our life of simple Web3 users and also the life of builders Web3, how it would change with MiCA?
Yeah, that's also a good question, because the crypto industry or tech exists now for more than 10 years. And we have not had, at least in Europe, such a regulation that is like really pretty overarching, like it's regulating a lot of things. And so whenever you are building something that is not that heavily regulated and then a regulation comes, the effect is like pretty intense. I think the effect in Europe will be definitely that there's going to be less companies that can basically have the funding and the manpower to follow up with all those rules. It's not only MiCA, they need to comply also with Dora, which is about resilience, like cyber resilience. Potentially now the discussion is around payments as well when it comes to the use of stablecoins. So there is like a very intense process of compliance. And before it was not like that. But the positive thing is that you have one access to the whole European Union if all the ideas around MiCA will hold. But that is the idea. You go to one country and then you can service the whole EU. That is really for centralized crypto as a service providers. And very similarly with tokens, like if you issue a token, that should be enough to do it in one country. So notify one national competent authority. That is for, in a way, I would say centralized entities. Like the decentralized ones, in theory, are outside of the scope. They're not regulated. We're not regulating the technology. We're not regulating infrastructure, which I think is super important. And then it will, in a way, depend on the interpretation of the national competent authorities, what is the difference between a decentralized and a centralized entity. So that is something that we still need to kind of figure out with practice. For the users, I think that's very important. One of the 4 goals of MiCA was that they want to offer safer services to the European Union users. So in a way, it means that now the services that we are accessing as citizens are safe, and they are, in a way, they went through a process of like licensing. That also means that there might be supervision on certain services that might not be regulated, and there might be limitation for the European Union users to access those services if they would seen as like non-regulated. So I would say that quite a lot of changes in terms of what we can access, but I think that what we have seen in the last year mostly, the users have really seen the implementation of the travel rule, which is like different from MiCA, but is something where if you as a user want to interact with the crypto as a service provider with an exchange, then you need to verify somehow your wallet. Like they ask you, is this your wallet? And then you say yes, and you sign, or you do a Satoshi test or something similar. So that was really something very tangible for every European Union citizen. You had to do the extra step. And there's a lot of questions, whatever we are offered, it's even enough from a compliance point of view. So there's a lot of questions about execution of the travel rule and if it's enough what we're doing right now as an industry again. But I think that as for users, especially the ones that are in the industry for a really long time, that was quite a difference in their everyday use of crypto and the transaction part.
Good. So a lot of changes are coming.
Yeah.
We'll see. You mentioned Dora. Can you say briefly like what is that, and also like how it will affect like us users?
Yeah. So Dora is really, I would say, again, something like a regulation that is meant for digital resiliency, Digital Operation Resilience Act. And for the users, it's a positive thing because it again regulates centralized entities and it regulates their like cybersecurity and their resilience. So I think it is the same. We don't see anything specific like as user. It's really something that centralized entities have to comply with. And so like it's something that was important for the regulator. It's not only for crypto as a service providers, it's really for the whole like financial use case, but crypto as a service providers are also part of it.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about a bit like private, my tongue. So yeah, my next question is about privacy in the relation with Brussels and people there, because privacy is like usually is considered as something kind of opposing. Mm-hmm. So what is Brussels' perspective on privacy?
Yeah, like I would say it's very schizophrenic. Like not the Brussels point of view on privacy, but just the situation we're in at the moment and how the technology in a way is communicating and reflecting certain values and the whole community. And of course, how it interacts with regulations that are few and different. So there are two main points. Like one is we do protect privacy in Europe through GDPR. And that is something that is super important. We're also having this like Brussels effect that we say like regulating in Europe, but then somehow exposing this regulations in other jurisdictions. And then this idea that other jurisdictions would have similar regulations as the ones that the European Union has. So that was in a way the idea also of GDPR. And that is a specific, very interesting case because this year, the European Data Protection Board has issued an opinion, a guidance specifically, and it's just the first draft. So we don't have the final version. And that is also maybe a good case to comment on the dialogue between the citizens or the industry, because they have drafted the first version and they asked anyone for opinions. They have taken in opinions. And now we'll see how much they will take them into consideration, but they are supposed to publish them pretty soon, then the final version. And what's important is like, in a way, guidance says that blockchain, and specifically public blockchain, it is really hard for public blockchain to be compliant with GDPR, and specifically because there's this right to, in a way, delete the data, private data on the blockchain. And we know that as public blockchains function today, it is impossible. So there was even one part there that was saying that you should delete the blockchain if you cannot delete the data. And that is something I would say pretty, controversial. Then we could think about like all the use cases that also the European Union and other regulators have been supporting when it comes to the use of blockchain. Even those will not be possible anymore. So that's also, I would say, a very good example of how different agencies and legislators then also act and interact and how it affects the industry. And the second one is really privacy, where now, I think the industry would want more privacy, but there's like regulations and directives, etc., that are limiting this perception of like what we think privacy is. One is definitely the financial privacy that we do have. We do want to have in dApps, in applications, in crypto, and the way how the reporting when it comes to anti-money laundering and the terrorist financing should be happening. So that was a whole work we did with the anti-money laundering package. There was 4 different documents there. So pretty interesting there. And I think the main discussion was really how do we perceive the self-hosted wallets, as they call them, and should they be identified or not, and in which way? And should there be identification when transactions are happening between wallets? So I think it was a really big win for the whole industry when our association and basically other associations as well, they prevented this identification of wallets and transactions when the transactions are happening between self-hosted wallets. So that's not happening. And I think that we need to be aware that that is a win. We had some really good wins. And the third one is really related mostly to chat control and to, in a way, privacy that we have within applications that are aimed at communicating, not really transacting crypto assets. But I think it's still important for the community to acknowledge, to see what's going on there. And we had this, it's just the right time to really be active on the chat control topic because it's being discussed in the, in the council at the moment.
Okay. Your hot take on network states, and not only yours, but I mean, it's a big hot topic, but I'm curious about the position of like Brussels or people like actually do laws. Like, do they even consider the existence of that? Do they perceive it as a threat? Are they doing something on legislative level to oppose it or support it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Super interesting, actually, question. So I don't think they are aware of network states as a notion that we kind of discuss about in this industry that much. I would say that there is definitely one person that knows about it and it's very curious about it. But I would say that in general, it's not something that they know and they are exposed to. And I think that it's kind of a good and a bad thing in a way. But in personal opinion, that is very personal. It's not like the organization opinion or something like this. I'm a very, like, I would say, realistic person. And I have many more questions about network states than answers, because the state, in a way, as everyone knows, is defined by 3 elements: the population, the territory, and basically the sovereignty, the right to be a state. And right now, if there's no territory, what does it mean, etc.? So there's so many questions. We are, in a way, living in this digital world. I think we most of the time, we really do live there. But at the same time, the physical part is also important. And there are some very interesting use cases with maybe countries that are disappearing, like Tuvalu and similar. They are just not going to exist in a few years because of the sea levels rising. And it is a very, like, imminent question for them. Like, what do we do? Like, is now the country just disappearing? And I think in this case, the global community and all the states that exist in the world, they will need to take a decision when the land of Tuvalu will be underwater. Like, is this still a state or not? And are we going to recognize this as a state? Or I don't know if there should be a recognition, but there should probably be a reaction. Like, are they still going to be part of the UN? Are they still going to be able to, represent the country? And the questions there are, for example, can we live digitally then? Where are the servers? Where are they located? Like, on which territory, which land, which country? And like, super, super interesting questions. But I think that it's definitely a notion to discover, discuss, research on. Would say that the mere existence of a state also gives existence to regulators. So I would say that, if they choose, they would rather not just like disassemble or like, not have states anymore. But the digital aspect of the state and just like citizens living digitally, it's important.
Yeah, the Tuvalu case is a super interesting one. I would like to explore it, but maybe next time, because we are short on time and it will be last question. And I would ask you to answer like under 1 minute. So questions about the future. Like, imagine we are, 10 years from now, and we are going with the most positive scenario. And like, we have the internet and Web3 that is private, secure. It's about human rights, and like, we want, right? So we have the internet that we want to, that we fight for. how would it look like and how the life would look like?
Yeah, very easy question. I would say that the citizens would be definitely empowered. They would be, tech savvy. They would have a lot of options on how to communicate, how to transact. They could connect online in a safe and privacy-preserving way. But I think that, thinking about AI, robotics, and everything else when it comes to surveillance, I would say that they could live in a safe and also not surveilled systems. So, from homes to the bar where they go to, thinking about like even, escalations that are happening globally, like really having our human rights respected in the digital world as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for joining us in this talk. Thanks for watching. Ciao.
Bye.